and our attendees are joining. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this special evening webinar. We are the Aging and Disabilities Department of Los Angeles County, and we are here to celebrate World Autism Awareness Month. And this really is an opportunity that provides us a great chance to raise awareness and to honor our community, family, and friends who have autism. We have quite a packed program this evening, and so we're going to get right into it. My name is Dave Cochin. I'm an administrator with the LA County Aging and Disabilities Department, and we administer a number of different programs, including LA Found, which we'll be getting a lot more into a little bit later. We have a couple of wonderful guest speakers who are real subject matter experts. The focus this evening will be on wandering prevention. And so you are all muted, but we invite you to put any questions that you have in the chat box. And to the extent possible within the hour, we will try to get to them and answer them. And we will get right into it. The first thing we're going to do before we introduce our guest speakers, we like to make these webinars interactive. And so we're going to begin with a poll question that's going to appear on the screen. And we invite you to answer the poll question. You'll be able to click right on it, and we'll get a sense of where people are in terms of the issues of autism and wandering. So why don't we go ahead and put that up? The first question we have is, have you or someone you know experienced issues with wandering in the past? The second question, how familiar are you with tracking technology? Third question, how important do you think education and awareness are in preventing wandering incidents? And finally, what challenges do you face in implementing wandering prevention measures in your current setting? So something to think about. And while you're thinking about it, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first guest speaker, Kate Movius. She is the founder of Autism Interaction Solutions, whose mission is to provide effective training in autism identification, safety, and communication tactics for first responders. Kate's work has been profiled by CBS, ABC, Fox, and the LA Times. She's a frequent spokesperson about special needs issues and has been a contributing writer for the LA Times, Los Angeles Magazine, and Pasadena Magazine. Kate serves on the LA Found Task Force, working with the Los Angeles Board of Supervisors to establish a strategic plan to minimize the risks of wandering for people with Alzheimer's and autism. She's also a member of the Autism Society of America Safety Task Force. Kate is the proud mom of 2 sons, one of whom has autism. And with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Kate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you everyone for being here. So let's get into it. I think the word wandering is not the best description of what happens when our autistic loved ones go on the lam. Here we have a picture of a young man on a railroad track. If we think about the word wandering, it kind of implies slowness and poetry, and he's wandering and maybe thinking about those things. For those of us who have an autistic loved one, this picture would probably elicit a lot of fear. So I just want to kind of lay that out in the outset that because we have our autistic loved ones, this word wandering really brings with it so much potential peril, and that's why we're all here. Next slide, please. Here we have one of my son's best friends, picture of him at the beach, and he's enjoying the water. If this were my son, he would continue on to Catalina Island. Just another example of the ways in which wandering really cause us all to be on our toes and why it's so important that all of you are here tonight. So let's first define wandering really quickly. It's also referred to as elopement or bolting. Elopement's a funny word. People think your child has gone to Vegas and is having a blast, but that's not the case. This is when an individual leaves the safety of a responsible person's care or a safe setting, and it can result in trauma, injury, or death. And it's very important to remember that wandering is a potentially fatal behavior. Next slide, please. So by far the greatest risk of wandering is drowning. It's by a long shot. 90% of lethal outcomes during wandering with autistic people are those that end with drowning. The other risks include traffic injuries, encounters with strangers, which by the way is minuscule. When my son has gone missing, it hasn't happened in a while, but when he's gone missing in the past, I always think, oh no, he's going to encounter a stranger. It's actually very, very low percentage chance of that. Another risk is encounters with law enforcement, and the risks always increase with the severity of the autism in older teens and adults with autism. Other risks include the risks that come from being outside for a long time. So that would be dehydration, heat stroke, hypothermia, falls, and physical restraint, meaning an encounter with law enforcement or first responders. Next slide, please. Let's take a look at our statistics, all of which I think are kind of low, by the way, because I think most parents don't end up reporting these things. But very important to remember that even if you don't have a loved one who has wandered yet, and this goes for Alzheimer's, dementia, as well as autism, the odds are that they will. And the reported percentages are 50%. So 50%, or roughly half of children with autism, will attempt to elope or run from a safe environment. And that's a rate that's nearly 4 times higher than their non-autistic siblings. In a recent study of autistic children, over 40% of the parents had suffered sleep disruption due to fear of elopement. If we were all in a room together right now, I would ask you to raise your hand if you had been severely sleep deprived recently. My guess is that most of the room would raise their hands. More than a third of children with autism who wander are unable to communicate their name, address, or phone number. And half of families with elopers report they've never received advice or guidance about elopement from a professional. And I, for one, think that at the time of diagnosis with the regional center, every family receiving that autism diagnosis should also receive a packet on wandering prevention. And here we have Aiden, by the way, running down towards the beach, far, far away from us while we're on vacation. Next slide, please. So here we have guys that I call Aiden's Angels. This is from a critical missing incident that happened in 2014. That's Aiden in the surfer ceiling yellow t-shirt, and that's his dutiful younger brother. At the time that Aiden had this incident, I was lecturing on something very similar to tonight. So I was giving lectures to regional center employees on how to prevent wandering. And lo and behold, even with all of the safeguards we had in place, Aiden got out. He was missing for about 3 hours in Northeast Los Angeles, where we live. And he was found with no clothing at a major intersection by these 2 young men on either side of him. He was hospitalized as a John Doe because my call crisscrossed and missed. I ended up getting him at the hospital. So it was a terrifying experience. It ended well for him. The man that you see standing there was the sergeant on call and on duty that night, and he heard the call come in, and he too has a nonverbal autistic son. So he took special interest in this incident. But it was absolutely terrifying, and it's something that I would love to avoid for all of you who are here today at this meeting. Next slide, please. So here we have Aiden on vacation again, climbing a cliff. I don't know if this is a familiar image to any of you, but it's very important to remember as we get into the warmer months, and this is as a summer vacation we took in Oregon, that wandering goes up exponentially. And that's because it's warmer out. That's because our doors and windows are open and our routines are off. So oftentimes we have more relatives in the house or we're traveling to different places. And this is a time when wandering incidents really, really go up. So bear that in mind. So we're going to cover 7 tips to help prevent wandering and wandering related tragedies. Next slide, please. First and foremost, the most important thing to do for your loved one is swim lessons and water safety. I cannot emphasize that strongly enough. Remember, 90% of mortality that occurs in wandering incidents is due to drowning. So how do we get swim lessons? For many people, this just seems out of reach. And I'm here to tell you, because this is what we did, you can get it through the regional center. So your regional center can fund swim lessons, and they're funded through the code Social Recreational Camp and Non-Medical Therapies. One of the arguments that you can use with the regional center is that this will enable your child to access his or her community. That's kind of the biggest piece and the cornerstone of what the regional center claims to do and does do, is to enable our children to access their communities. So remember this particular code when you're requesting this service. If you yourself do own a pool, fence it as soon as possible, because even if your child swims like a fish, they could fall in, they could hit their heads. It's extremely important to be very cautious. Also, remember to remove all toys, any items of interest that might draw your child to the pool. And very important, and I have to remind myself of this all the time, teaching your child to swim does not mean that he or she is safe in the water. Remember, your neighbors may have pools, and our children are very drawn to water naturally. It doesn't matter how cold it is outside, they're often just very drawn. So how do we find out where these pools are? Use Google Earth. So go to Google, type in Google Earth. You can go up in the air on your computer and take a look at where all those bodies of water are. And you want to reach out to those neighbors if possible. Next slide. So the second thing you want to do is to secure your home. We found out the hard way for Aiden's critical missing incident that the method that we had been securing our home, well, number one, he figured it out and got out. And that was, we were using deadbolt locks that locked on the inside, and he figured it out. We also found out in the all the follow-up that went on to this incident that that's actually illegal and it's a fire hazard. So we fell in love with this lock that's pictured here. It's an old-fashioned mechanical lock. It's not electronic. It doesn't require any batteries, and you can order it on Amazon. It's probably around $100, so it's not cheap, but it's very, very important for keeping your loved one safe. You install it with the numbers facing inside so that family members can all have that code and be able to get out in the event of a fire. A lot of other options as well, and we'll have resources at the end of this presentation to help guide you. Of course, your traditional home security alarm system, but that's out of reach for many people. So there are much more affordable ways to do this. You can have battery operated door alarms, an old-fashioned hook and eye lock on the door, yard fencing, and anything that will stop your child from going out, anything that will cause a pause. So that might be pictures, stop signs, and again, we'll have more resources at the end. Next slide, please. The third thing you want to do is to alert your community. Our neighbors were really, really key to assisting us in Aiden's incidents, especially when he was wandering a lot when he was a child. So knowing your neighbors helps reduce the risks. And I know that not everybody lives in a neighborhood where they're communicating a lot with their neighbors, and not everybody has understanding neighbors, but it's important to reach out, and it's important to share information to those that you trust. You can provide a letter to your neighbors informing them of your child's tendency to wander, and let them know if they see your child alone that they should immediately call you and or 911. So 911 is really kind of the standby, but not everybody wants to do that instantly. If they live next door and they see your child passing by, they want to make sure that there is an adult with that child. You also want to share with your neighbors the list of places that your loved one likes to go in the community, like parks and stores. In our son's case, it was through the doggy door in a neighbor's house so he could visit the dogs. So once we figured that out, we were able to share that with neighbors in the event of a wandering incident. Next slide, please. And next, we want to alert our first responders. And it's very important to share information, especially with our local law enforcement, also with our local fire departments. You can do this in the old-fashioned way of going to your local police station and bring a photo of your loved one. You can also bring your loved one. For some of us, I'm sure you're shaking your heads like, I could never bring my autistic child to the police station. Some of us can, though, and that can be an effective way of introducing your child. I would suggest calling first the non-emergency line and explaining that you have an autistic loved one and you'd like to visit. And bring with you a handout that has information about your loved one. Also, lots of police departments, especially the larger ones, have a special alert program. The Sheriff's Department has this. And this is a voluntary program that flags your address so that if there's an incident, your address will flash up for the dispatcher and notify them, and they can then notify the responding officers or deputies that there's somebody living in the house with a specific diagnosis. In this case, it would be autism, and that's really, really important. Always have handouts with you in the car because our loved ones will tend to go missing from really familiar places like the store and the park, a birthday party, things like that. And it's really important to kind of set all of this up for yourselves, just in the instance, in the case that this happens, that you've got all the supports that you need. Next slide, please. And we're all here to talk about tracking devices, especially Project Lifesaver, which our deputy Schnackenberg will do shortly. Getting a tracking device for us was just a huge weight off our shoulders, and we used LA Found, which is an incredible program. Do keep in mind that every person with autism has different sensory needs, and your child might refuse to wear anything on his or her body. Don't give up. It took us a while to desensitize Aiden and to teach him about the wristband, teach him what it was doing through social stories, and then just through putting it on the wrist. Let's just do it for 10 seconds, Aiden, and then taking it off. Let's do it for a minute, Aiden, and taking it off. And eventually he did wear it. There are other ways that you can put IDs or tracking devices on your child. They can come through clothing, a shoe tag, or a backpack tag. And just remember not to give up. Just remember that if you're convinced that there's no way that you could use a tracking device, just keep trying. Project Lifesaver, again, is an incredible program available to families, and we'll learn a lot more about it in a bit. Next slide, please. Next, we want to create a school or group home safety plan, because where is your child all day? For 6 hours at least a day. We want to be sure that we've got all that squared away with that team. So you want to write this into the IEP, and there's a resource at the end of this presentation that will bring you to a place where you have a sample letter to the school or an IEP goal. If your child's not in school anymore, we want to talk to the group home, or you want to put it into your IPP. You want to be sure to share information that helps the school. So if there is a place near the school that your child has wandered to or that your child really likes, if there's a McDonald's, share all of that. And be sure to put in writing. It's really important to put it in writing with the school or the adult day program that they in turn need to share any information on wandering incidents with you. Next slide, please. Now, this is the thing that I wish that someone had told me, and I really could have used it. Create and post a 911 checklist. Do this right after this presentation. You want to do it the old-fashioned way. You can write it out, put it on a piece of paper, type it out, print it, put it on your fridge. Because I'm here to tell you that when you make that 911 call, and I'm sure there are people in this meeting who've had to make it, your brain is in a fight or flight state, and it's very difficult to remember the really key pieces of information that those first responders need. So here they are in order. You want to state your name and the address to which the police should respond. You want to provide possible locations where they could respond, and state that your loved one is missing, endangered, and then provide the diagnosis. Really important piece of information there. It is key to get that information out to the dispatcher and have them share it with the responding officers or deputies. Then you'll provide your child's name, and then you'll provide your child's physical description, which I failed miserably at when Aiden went missing in the middle of the night. I couldn't remember what pajamas he had been wearing. So I highly recommend just always taking a photo. We're all in the habit of it these days anyway. Always take a picture of your child wherever you go, whatever you're doing before they go to bed, and have that physical evidence right there in case they go missing. And next you want to provide possible, we already talked about possible locations where police should respond. Okay, next slide, please. And here we have Aiden on the right. He's jumping between cliffs. On yet another vacation in the desert. And this is a picture that is very important for me to look at because he's 23 years old and he's come a very long way, but wandering will always be a risk for him. Aiden has profound autism. He has nonverbal autism. And in his case, I can never really rest on my laurels, so to speak. I have to always, all of his loved ones have to always think about this as a behavior that he may engage in, even if he hasn't done so in years. Next slide, please. So there's lots of good resources online, free resources to help you. First and foremost is the National Autism Association. They have lots of free toolkits that you can download, and they're also available in Spanish. Everything from a family emergency plan, should your loved one go wandering, to an emergency profile sheet that you can give to first responders, swimming lesson guides. The picture on the right here of the box is called the Big Red Safety Box, and they're released, I think, once a year, and they're fantastic. It's a free resource. They do run out very quickly, which is frustrating, but they have a lot of free resources inside of them, including door alarms and stop signs. Next slide, please. Here are more resources found on this website. So you can see this safety cling, safety alert, person with autism may not respond to verbal commands. I have a whole pack of these, and I continually replace them on my car windows. It's really important for first responders to know what's going on should they either stop you because you're speeding or something's wrong, or God forbid you're in an accident and you're incapacitated. Those responding first responders need to understand why it is that there's a person in the car not following commands, not giving them their name. This can really be the difference between things going smoothly and things not going smoothly. They also have safety belt labels as well. And here on the right, you have a personal emergency profile example that you could bring down to your local police station. Next slide. Another one of my favorite resources is run by two autism parents, and it's called If I Need Help. And they have a huge registry of people with special needs or dementia or Alzheimer's who have the potential to go missing. They use QR codes that are wearable. You can sew them into the t-shirt or carry them with the child. And they also provide other safety things for your house where if responding officers come, there's a sign in the window. Next slide, please. Autism Speaks has some good, a lot of good free downloadable resources as well. What I like is they have an IEP letter, a sample letter, because we autism parents are, as I said earlier, extremely sleep deprived and tired. We need to have things laid out for us. And this kind of brings me to my final message to everybody, which is just remember that anything that you do to help prevent wandering is better than nothing. So if there's just one thing that you can take with you from this presentation tonight, like putting up that 911 checklist or downloading the school alert letter, that is going to go so far towards keeping your loved ones safe. Next slide. I think we're done. No, we're not. We have door locks and alarms. Okay, so door locks and alarms. This middle one again is one of my favorites. This is the mechanical lock available on Amazon, but you know, lots of things work. Lots of different locks work for different people, depending on your home. And having a safety lock on your door can make a huge difference. It certainly did for us. Next slide. Tracking devices. That's why we're here. We have Project Lifesaver on the right, which you're going to learn a lot more about. Cannot recommend it highly enough. And wearable smart soles, which are those soles that you see in the middle. Those wouldn't work for my son because he kicks off his shoes any chance he can get, but that might work for your child, especially when they're going to school. And then we have Angel Sense, which is a very well-known GPS tracker. Our county uses Project Lifesaver because it was determined through research that because of the topography of the city, that GPS is spottier. It doesn't work quite as well. But as I said, anything is better than nothing. And here we are at the end. I'm available for any thoughts or ideas, concerns that you may have at any time. And I'm just so glad again that everybody is here because it's going to go a very long way towards keeping your loved ones safe. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Kate. I really can't tell you how important this information is and how much we appreciate having you in the community. So thank you so much for this presentation. And as a reminder to everybody, if you have questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat box. We may have a chance towards the end to even take verbal questions, depending on how much time we have left. But right now, what we're going to do is give you a little presentation regarding our program, which is LA Found.
Before we start, could we ask everyone to use the Q&A feature for your questions today? We have that available to us in this format. Thank you.
As Kate was saying, the individuals who tend to wander often go missing, and that can be absolutely tragic. It can be just harrowing for the loved ones of the individuals who go missing. And so we have a program that we administer called LA Found. It provides hope and it provides help for individuals in this situation. LA Found provides a voluntary system of free trackable devices that participants wear on their wrist. And this is for at-risk individuals. When an individual wearing a device goes missing, we have a partnership with the LA Sheriff's Department, and they deploy a specially equipped team to assist with search and rescue by tracking the device. And this is especially for caregivers of those living with autism and Alzheimer's, dementia, or other cognitive impairments. Next slide, please. So what exactly is LA Found about? The idea is to promote awareness and facilitate necessary action focused on protecting, locating, and identifying missing persons with cognitive impairments. And it's based on a conceptual model which focuses on the activities that are geared toward protecting at-risk people from having a critical missing incident and locating them when they're missing, as well as identifying people who are found but whose identity is unknown. The LA Found program was spearheaded by Supervisor Janice Hahn from the 4th District. Next slide, please. And really to give you an idea of what the real inspiration for the program started with, there was an individual named Nancy Polikas, and she had early onset Alzheimer's, and she was at the LA County Museum of Art with her husband, Kirk. And what happened was she went into the restroom. He also went into the restroom, and she came out before he did, and she went out looking for him. And unfortunately, she ended up leaving the museum before he came out of the restroom. And by the time he came out, she was gone. And so, you know, they all, he contacted law enforcement immediately. They all went looking. And unfortunately, they could not find her. And then sadly, 2 years later, her body was found in a park in Sherman Oaks. And so this really was what prompted the LA Found program, this and incidents like it. So Nancy's family and friends draw from their experiences with a variety of networks within Los Angeles County. The gentleman that was in the previous slide that was standing next to Supervisor Hahn is Kirk Moody, and he was the husband of Nancy Polikas, and he has been an active member of the LA Found Task Force from the very beginning and all the way to the present day. And his contributions have been absolutely necessary and priceless. Next slide, please. So this is the technology behind the LA Found program. It started with what was known as Project Lifesaver. The participants in the program wear a small radio transmitter on their wrist that emits an individualized frequency signal. The caregivers play a very crucial role, a very essential role in the program. They are actually responsible for reporting the missing person by calling 911, and then following up, the responding law enforcement jurisdiction can request mutual aid assistance from the LA Sheriff's Department mental evaluation team. But then the caregivers are also crucial in things like changing the batteries in the device and letting LA Found know or LA Sheriff's Department know of any changes, any new developments that need to be relayed. And the mental evaluation team of the Sheriff's Department uses specialized receivers to search for the participants' individualized radio frequency. Now, more recently, the LA Found program has moved into a more advanced technological system that uses GPS, global positioning system technology, through the use of tracking devices manufactured by TheoraCare and using what's known as the clairvoyant networks. Next slide, please. So most importantly, this provides you with how to apply for the program. You can apply online using the website address listed. You can send an email to request an application. If you go to the website, you go straight to the application, but you can also do it through the email. Or you can just simply call the LA Found hotline, and we have a crack team, amazing team that can help out with any application assistance that's needed. And so, with that, I just want to really strongly encourage everybody who knows someone who could benefit from this program to reach out and at least find out more information about it, if not actually apply for someone who could really benefit from the program. That brings us to our next guest speaker. His name is Deputy Dustin Schnockenberg, and he joined the LA County Sheriff's Department in December 2007. And since then, he's done several units of assignments, including the Men's Central Jail, Compton Sheriff Station, Transit Services Bureau, Court Services, and County Services before ending up at the Mental Evaluation Team. He's been with the Sheriff's Mental Evaluation Team for 5 years, where he has worked the field, triage, and now training. He's been involved in the LA Found Project Lifesaver program for 2 years, where he trains staff on locating loved ones that go missing. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Deputy Schnockenberg. Thank you.
Thank you. So like you said, my name is Deputy Schnockenberg. So I've been with the LA County Sheriff's Department, like you said, for quite a bit of time, mental evaluation team for about 5 years, and spearheading the Project Lifesaver for the mental evaluation team for about the last 2 years. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide.
I'm Sergeant Brandon Barclay with the Mental Evaluation Team, and this is your Training Bureau Tip of the Week. The department has recently implemented a pilot program working with Project Lifesaver International. The mental evaluation team will be coordinating this program with the support of Communications Fleet Management Bureau, Aero Bureau, and participating mountain rescue teams. 60% of persons with dementia will wander away from their loved ones and become missing during their lifetime. 49% of persons with autism will wander away from their loved ones and become missing during their lifetime. The way Project Lifesaver works is these families or caretakers of the persons with dementia or autism are issued a wristband. This wristband goes into the Project Lifesaver database with the frequency number and the person's full name and date of birth. The Project Lifesaver wristband has RF technology or radio frequency. Search and rescue teams that are participating will have a receiver that can triangulate where this wristband is at. Once this person goes missing, it's important for your desk to contact the triage desk and let them know that this person is missing.
All right, so what you just watched was a training tip. So we like to send those training tips out through the LA County Sheriff's Department every once in a while. That one just happens to be on Project Lifesaver, what we're here to talk about, to help prevent wandering between autism loved ones and, you know, people with cognitive disorders, your Alzheimer's, dementia, anybody with cognitive disorders. So the mental evaluation team, which you see on the screen, that's my team. This is how we kind of break up our team. We have a total of 53 deputies on our team. 34 of them work the field. They actually go out and they respond to calls in the field with other law enforcement agencies, our agencies, sheriff's departments to help any type of mental health crisis in the field. We have a veterans team that is brought up of 5 people. They actually go out and help only veterans that are suffering from mental illness, that are, you know, just need some help. They go out and deal with that. We have 5 investigators that go out and they do more of our major stuff, you know, our utilizers, high utilizers through the sheriff's department, through the fire department. More severe cases, they go out and they actually investigate those type of crises. Go ahead, next slide, please. All right, MET training. So we do a lot of training through the MET team. To join the MET team, you have to do 2 years in the field at a sheriff station. That's beyond your 6 months training program. Then you have to test for our position. So it's an undercover position. You have to take a test. It takes about 3 to 4 months to go through the test process. Once you enter our team and you're accepted into our team, you are given 800 hours of training in mental health within the first 2 years. And you must be, one of the requirements, you must be trained into Project Lifesaver to enter our team. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So with the training in that, we also go out and we actually train a lot of other agencies and we train in-house. What you see on the screen right now is some of the trainings that we offer just for mental health aspects of law enforcement. We have to get, you know, the law enforcement to understand what mental health is, how to recognize it. We have Kate Mobius that comes in with some of her families, you know, to teach us about autism. We actually get to interact with people with autism. It is great for us as law enforcement because, you know, if we don't have loved ones that are autistic, then we can have, you know, this interaction and see how they are with us. We do veterans interaction. We have, you know, secured measures from Dave Weiner that comes in. He teaches about veterans that, you know, all the stuff that they go through with their mental health. We team up with Alzheimer's Association. They come in and they help us teach, you know, about Alzheimer's and dementia, how to interact with them, the signs to look for, you know, and to see if they possibly might be, you know, suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia. And many other different types of trainings that we put out there for different law enforcement agencies and firefighters. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. All right, these are our tracking technology we have. So we have the PLI 5000 receiver. That is the square looking Ghostbusters thing you see on your screen right there. So our units are equipped with that right there, and that is what actually tracks the bracelet. All our units are trained with that. When they first come onto the team, it's an 8-hour training. During that training, we actually go over the device. They actually have to know how to use it. They actually have to go out and show that we can use it. Some of the training we do is we'll actually go out and we'll put out a call. Okay, you have an autistic individual that is missing from this area. Come find us. And then whoever is on the other end wearing the bracelet will go hide somewhere. Most time when it comes to autism, we'll go hide somewhere by a pool, you know, and we want to see if the people that are, you know, coming on, learn how the equipment are going to realize Okay, if he's autistic, a lot of them are attracted to water. So they're going to go on Google Earth, like Kate said, and they're going to look up all the bodies of water that are in that area, and they're going to start their search around that area. With that tracking device in our cars that are especially outfitted for them, they're up to about a mile of range. So we try to dispatch 3 or 4 units out, and we start doing a grid search around an area about half a mile, 3/4 of a mile apart until we get a hit. And then from that point, everybody kind of circulates around that area until they start getting more of a hit. And then when we get on foot, they're good to about 1/4 of a mile. They are directional. So I can tell you if the person is to my left, my right, forward, behind me. I can tell them if they're up on a second floor building. I can tell if they're down in the basement under a bridge using that thing. If we have an Alzheimer's patient, or the next time we'll put out the next training will be for an Alzheimer's patient. We'll, put out the broadcast like we do. And we want to see if they're going to ask the right questions. Are they going to ask, hey, where did they used to live? Where did they, used to work? Places they might visit, remembering stuff of the past. So that's part of how we train people with that. We want to actually put them through live scenarios as much as we can to get them out there and actually make sure they understand how to use equipment. We do the training frequently to make sure they are up to date, because it is a certain ping that comes out on it that we want to make sure they, understand how to use the ping, how to go up and down on the levers, the distance and stuff like that to get it best done. Because last thing we want to do is if one of your loved ones go missing, we want to make sure we know how to use our equipment and the equipment is working correct. That's about it. So reporting real quick, just how this works for reporting. So as soon as your loved one goes missing, we are asking you to report it as soon as possible. Because I had a call the other day from a hospital, actually. The patient was admitted into the hospital. The nurse actually took the time to realize what the bracelet was, look it up, find out where it was, and eventually got back to me. And I was able to track it through our database and tell them exactly who it was. When I called the loved one, the caregiver, I asked them, I go, why didn't you guys report the person missing? They said, oh, we were about to, but at this time it had already been 2 hours later. So we ask you, as soon as your loved one goes missing, contact law enforcement. We can always cancel our units if you guys find them or the local law enforcement finds them. So you're going to contact your local law enforcement as soon as possible. They're going to turn around and contact the mental evaluation team. When that is done, a message goes out to every 53 deputies on our team, including some of our search and rescue people that participated. It's close to about 100 people this message will go out to. And then from there, they start saying who's available to respond. We end up trying to dispatch the minimum of 3 to 4 units equipped with this stuff right there. And one of our units will actually go to on scene, get information, and start dispatching it over to our other units while the other units are already doing a grid search through the area and trying to pick up the ping on the thing. Once they are done, we find the loved one, or wherever it goes, they do have to write a report, and we actually take that report, we put it into a system back to Project Lifesaver so they can actually, share that information with other agencies, how we did, what we did, and the outcome of the call. So that's all I have for you guys. Dave, back to you.
Thank you so much, Dustin. We really appreciate you as well. We just simply couldn't run this program without the support of law enforcement, and and as well as your partnership and collaboration. So we actually are going to, at this time, open the floor up to questions. I'm going to ask our team, are there any in the chat box or the Q&A that have not been answered? And do we have the ability to open it up for people to ask verbally and to be unmuted?
There's just a couple of questions that I can have either Deputy Schneckenberg or Kate answer if you would like
That
me
would
to
be
read
great.
them. Okay.
Yes, please.
One of the questions is, if the person has epilepsy, will they qualify? Being that I work for LA Found, I can say, yes, you do qualify. The main points for that is to make sure that you do have a cognitive impairment that makes you prone to wandering, and that you would get disoriented, and epilepsy definitely qualifies in that. So we would definitely want you to fill out an application, or your loved one that is helping you to fill out an application.
I see a question that says, is it waterproof? And that was my first question that I also asked, because my son is always in water? And the answer is yes. The wristband is waterproof.
Okay, another question is, if a person with Down syndrome would benefit and qualify. Yes, we do have a community within our participant population that have Down syndrome, and so we have provided bracelets. That is very important that you sign up for that. So yes, we do.
Thank you, Christina. Any other questions?
We have a lot of questions coming in.
They're all coming in.
Right, yeah. And I'm sorry, I'm sort of chiming in too,
Yes, go ahead.
Christina, because I
Yes.
had all of these questions myself when we were at the beginning of this process. Will the tracking bracelet be available to anyone? Yes, who has a qualifying condition. And is there a limit on the number of wristbands? I mean, I think that the question comes from a place which I can understand, which is that our loved ones are not careful with things. Our loved ones lose things. So what is the policy on replacement?
Yes, so as long as we know ahead of time if a bracelet is lost, we can try to track it, or we can offer another one, but we would rather know that it is better that we can provide more wristbands than the actual device itself. And that is very easy. That's a very easy thing we can replace for free. And then
Great.
someone else asked, are the safety locks legal to install? Are they a fire or other safety hazard for the
Such a
device?
good question.
Yeah.
It's a really good question. And that's what I found out the hard way, which is that the locks that I had installed, which were just deadbolts, were a fire hazard. And I was, you know, when you're at your wit's end as a parent or a caregiver, you do tend to kind of find the easiest thing. So having a lock that can unlock from the inside is not illegal. Having a lock that can be unlocked by somebody who has the code or has the ability to unlock is not illegal. And then there's a question regarding swim lessons, and that's a really good question. So it also is kind of infuriating because the regional center really should be funding swim lessons. And if they're unresponsive, one recommendation that I would make is that your child is at grave risk. And I would really lay it on thick because it's actually true. Your child is at grave risk of drowning and is being left out of community opportunities and is not being a part of his or her community. And they need to call right away because your child is at grave risk. Let me know if you need my help because I'm not an official advocate, but I've had to fight for a lot with the regional center. I've had to take them to court a couple times, and I've won without a lawyer. So let me know if you need anonymous attendee, if you need any supports.
And we do have a few more questions. Let me see. Does a doctor need to complete any sections of the application? And that is a good question. And I will actually answer that for you by writing a text. Let's see. Oh, okay. Is this limited to individuals within the LA City or county, like Compton Sheriff's Department? That's a good question. Who wants to answer that?
Dustin?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Okay.
I was trying to skim through them.
Is it limited to individuals within LA City or county, like Compton Sheriff's Department?
So the wristband is LA Found is all the way through LA County. So if you are in Compton, that's actually where I patrolled some of my patrol time. They do have it out there. So as long as you live in LA County, you are eligible for this program. I've seen another question in there. It was asking if they are rechargeable or batteries.
Yes.
They are not rechargeable. They are actually take a battery. You do get a supply of batteries when you get onto the program, and instructions on how to change the battery. The batteries are good up to about 2 months is when we ask you to start changing them out. And it does come with a battery checker. So all you do is you take it's a little black box, you put it on top, and it actually checks your battery to tell you if the battery's still good or not. And then when the beep starts going bad or slower, then you want to change it out. But it's about every 2 months the battery needs to be swapped out on them.
And another question regarding if it gets damaged, can we bring it in to be repaired? Is there a cost? There's no cost to get it once you're in the program. There's no cost to get extra supplies if needed. The wristbands, I would not worry about it being damaged because they are like a hospital grade wristband and there are other options. But you can always swap those out. So we can provide more of those easily. Do you know?
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Kate.
I'm just moving backwards.
Yeah.
So there's a question from Jim Kelly regarding the special needs program with the Sheriff's Department. So yes, if you have a loved one in your home who has a diagnosis, and it doesn't just have to be dementia, it can be mental illness, it can be autism, you can voluntarily provide your address. And by the way, this is available in a lot of police departments, but each police department operates really differently. So you just have to go to their websites or call them. And yes, you provide your address so that then dispatch has that address and they have that information for responding officers.
One of the things, and I'll answer to that, is that we do provide training for caregivers once you sign up for the program. And so once you're in the program, we definitely train our caregivers to provide information on LA Found and that you have a tracking bracelet to your local law enforcement agency, just so that they are aware that you are in the program and to get acquainted with that process. So, and we will definitely go over that more in detail once we have the application and we're able to get to know where you live and all those things. So, is there anything else? Oh, let's see.
I think we have time for one more
more?
because we actually
Okay.
have one final poll that we would like to.
Yes, yes.
Is there a
display.
program for LA City that's a good question. So Dustin, can you respond to that? Because it's confusing.
Is there a program for the LA Found?
City of Los Angeles.
LA City for the special alert form? Is that what the question was?
I'm not entirely clear if it's for that or if it's for the wristband.
So everybody in LA County, for the wristband portion of it, that's what the question was about. It is put onto the LA County website, or the LA County program. I know other agencies do have the tracking technology. I know South Pasadena was getting ready to start a program, but they'll still be under LA Found. South Pasadena, and LA Found, if you could help me up, the one that just got the equipment. We're going to start training pretty soon. We'll be able to help track, but as far as, it doesn't matter what city you live in LA County, as long as you're in LA County border, then you are eligible for the wristbands. As far as the special alert program, I'm not sure if LAPD has a system like that. I'm pretty sure they do, but I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly what the program would be called.
Okay, we are actually rolling towards the end of our program, but we do have one more poll that we'd like to display on the screen and ask you to complete. You can just click on it when it appears. While that's being displayed, I can tell you that since the implementation of this program a little over 6 years ago, we have issued over 1,400 of these devices. So our team has been busy and they've been amazing in keeping this going. And so we will go ahead and ask you these poll questions. And if you can go ahead and click on whatever applies. The first question is, do you feel more informed about autism and wandering? Second question, do you know how these resources work and help your family? Third question, do you understand more about LA Found? And finally, would you like these resources today? There we go. Perfect. Definitely seeing that people are more informed about autism and wandering, 98%. Do you know how these resources work? 100%, which is great. Can we move? I don't know if we need to scroll down to see the others.
On my screen, it says, do you understand more about LA Found? We have about 100%, I guess. Yes. And would you like these resources today? We have about 83% that say yes.
Okay. This is great to know and very encouraging. We just, want to let everyone know that there is help out there. And with that, we're going to close out the webinar. I would just like to once again thank our guest speakers, Kate Movius, Dustin Schnockenberg. Thank you so much. I'd also like to thank our own team for keeping this program going and thriving. And finally, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us. We really appreciate it. We hope you've gotten some good information out of it and benefited from it. And we, as stated earlier, the YouTube channel will include all of this information, and we hope to see you again in future webinars, which we will be publicizing in the near future. And thank you, everybody. Take care.